Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel as Mike's Talks and Thoughts here. Back again today with another video for you guys, and today we are here with a season review for a little show in 2023 called Beef. Now, of course, this is a show that has sort of taken off in the first month or so that has been released. Is of course an A24 production released on Netflix in that binge format style, and a very interesting story of how a road rage incident leads into something greater and bigger and affects these two characters as well as everyone around them. So I checked out the first season here for you guys. I'm just going to be giving thoughts, reviews, talking about it, what I liked, disliked, and also leave your opinion down below in the comments section. I'd love to hear what you think about this new show, Beef, starring Steven Yeun and Ali Wong here. So as I just mentioned, the show stars Steven Yeun, who many people will know for being in The Walking Dead as Glenn Rhee, and then of course Ali Wong as well. As I mentioned again, this is an A24 production, and the whole premises of this show is these two characters, Daniel and Amy, get into this road rage incident that sort of affects everything else around them. And you kind of see how this impacts them as people, and just how they kind of are as people because of this incident. It's not even really a major thing that happens. Daniel, of course, is coming out from the store and he backs out, and Amy, of course, is going by. And this is where it first starts. Amy flips him the bird, and he does not take that kindly, as he is just having a terrible day. And they go through this little chase, and it just ends in, of course, Daniel trying to catch this car, see who this person is, and of course she gets the upper hand. And it's very much a cat and mouse game through that first episode. And of course Daniel trying to figure out who this person is, pulling a license plate, and of course being petty. And this is the point where the show was starting to lose me a little bit as a fan, because like I said, I was very intrigued by the premises. I saw the ratings were good, and I liked the actors that they had cast for this series. But as we started moving along here and we got more into the nitty-gritty of this little road rage incident, you start to think in your head, are people really this petty, will go to this sort of lengths to just get revenge on something that should just be, let go? It wasn't anything, no harm, no foul. It wasn't like anyone got killed in this, a family member was hurt, or anything like that would really bring about serious retaliation. But these two people, man, just their personalities, Daniel and Amy here, and just them being self-centered and thinking that everything, of course, revolves around them, and that they have to be the one to one-up the other. So, like I said, at first, it really rubbed me the wrong way, to where it didn't feel like this would happen. Like you would think that people would put aside their differences, they would just squash this and be done with it. But that's not how the real world works, and it's very interesting to see here how that affects them in their lives. Daniel, of course, mentoring his cousin here and his brother, and them sort of having to deal with all of this because of him, and it really takes a toll on them, and it's really affecting everything in his life. And then you have Amy on the other side of the spectrum, who has a very nice life for herself. She has a family, and you see how she has everything, and how her life just starts getting worse and worse and worse, while Daniel's is already pretty much at the bottom. It's getting worse, and then he, of course, as time goes along, starts to rise up and gain his confidence back. And that's one thing that I loved about this show, was this idea of how a person's confidence can change their whole demeanor. This is something that they use as well in a show called Fargo, with one of the main characters on that show, where he's very shy, timid, and keeps to himself. Very much a guy who, in all essence, is a loser. But as he gains his confidence and is able to, of course, pull women and do well at his job, he's a whole different person. And that's what happens here with Daniel. After these two basically just go back and forth with petty stuff, whether it's, of course, Daniel going to Amy's house and, of course, peeing all over the place, or, of course, Amy trying to get back at Daniel and catfishing his brother. It all leads into this 8-month time jump where Daniel, at the end of his sort of falling out from this road rage incident, is able to join this church from this girl that he knows, and he's able to find his confidence and be himself and, stand out and show who he really can be at his best, and makes him seem more attractive and, being able to seem like a winner in life. While Amy, on the other hand, she has it all and her family is just spiraling out of control. Her and her husband are just not seeing eye to eye. They are having a lot of marital problems, and of course the whole situation with Daniel just brings about just even more problems. And they, of course, have a daughter to raise, and this is, of course, affecting her personal life as well. Of course, taking her trip out to Vegas, and Daniel, of course, not leaving stuff alone as she's still working her scheme with Paul here. And Daniel and his cousin follow him out there and just makes for disaster. And just the situation, every time you think it's going to end, it just never ends. And this comes into the breaking point in episode number 9, which in my opinion was the best episode of the show, where everything starts to boil over and we get to see how Paul reveals to Amy's husband that he was sleeping with her, and that just kicks everything into high gear. And of course, her husband George finding out that Daniel isn't really this guy Zane who he was pretending to be, and basically him having to get into this fight with George and then accidentally taking their daughter in the truck. And then Daniel and Paul, of course, being held up at the apartment by Isaac here. Isaac was sort of the cousin who I mentioned earlier who got blamed earlier on for the road rage incident, as Amy, one of Amy's co-workers, is trying to put the pieces together from this neighborhood watch, and he sort of kind of ends up taking the fall for the whole incident happening. And he, of course, is coming for revenge on Daniel here and ends up using the child as collateral, and finding out that Amy is at, her boss's place where she's like a billionaire, and them basically trying to have this whole big plan to steal everything inside. And it's really like GTA-esque, where they are coming in and robbing this place, but these guys are just total amateurs. And it makes for a really cool sequence, man. Just a very tense situation, not knowing what's going to happen next, when the police are going to come. Everyone's sort of in a different situation at this time, where tensions, of course, have boiled over from the first episode, and at the highest they've ever been at this point. So many shocking moments, a lot of big deaths come from this as well, which of course was very, very interesting to see here. And that leads into the last portion, where Daniel and Amy, of course, are getting out from this billionaire's house, and they still cannot put aside their differences. They still are very self-centered people, and this is where they, of course, crash off-road. They're lost in this desert, and leads into the finale episode, where they have to make a lot of strides and really grow the most throughout the season. The last 2 episodes to me were by far my favorite, just because of the insane, plot sequences from episode number 9, and just the fun and intensity of that episode, leading to where I think the best character development came in the whole season, with episode number 10, with the 2 characters who started it all pretty much having a whole episode to themselves, and them being lost and trying to figure out ways how they can bond, and talking things out, and being able to finally connect with each other and understand each other. And it was really nice to see, because I feel like a lot of situations in real life could just be diffused, or have the beef squashed, as I should say, just by talking it out and learning about the other person, and knowing about all these other people's problems, and seeing just the connection that they can make with doing that. And of course, they find a way to make it back after their grueling journey of days just being exhausted, and where they're able to finally get cell service. And you see that Amy's husband George is finally getting called. At this point, he's pretty much gone. He just wants to stay as far away as this situation that he can be, because his daughter's life was just at risk and he doesn't want to be anywhere near it. But of course, he comes and brings the gun that he had in the previous episodes. And of course, I'm thinking in my head, as most shows do, he's going to point the gun, but he's not going to do nothing. But this time, the guy actually shoots the gun. It actually makes sense that finally someone is shooting the gun here. And of course, shoots Daniel, and sort of leaves us off on this little cliffhanger, I would say, for season 2 on what's going to happen. Daniel's, of course, in the hospital, and we see Amy sort of staying with him and being with him, and I think that maybe they will develop a full-on relationship for next season if it comes to that. Or maybe, they leave it here and we sort of interpret it how we want to. Of course, a lot of open-ended questions here, but I think that they will get a season 2 just because of how well received the show was. And of course, I think it was really well done. Of course, like I said at the beginning, it started off a little bit rough, where it just felt like a very petty back and forth and not much else going on. But as the story started to develop more and you started to learn more about these characters, and they started to have more characterization about them and how they can go from their ups and downs and just everyday life, and how that's so relatable for us. Like I said, the whole confidence thing with Daniel, and of course Amy and her family sort of having their ups and downs. It just makes for really good storytelling and great character development in the last episode here, as well as a great plot thriller in episode number 9. This series for me, Beef, for season 1, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I think it was a great tier season here. I'm definitely going to be checking out season 2 if they come out with it. And I'd like to hear down in the comments below what you think of Beef, what your thoughts are on the show, how was it stacked up against other 2023 releases, and what your thoughts are moving forward with the show. So yeah, that's going to do it, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the season review here for Beef. Definitely looking to come out with more videos for you guys here in the future on the channel, so definitely stay tuned for those. Take care, everyone, and peace out.